Okay, so today I'm in the Cotswolds with Bob Cooper, a face well known to at the races of viewers, and further afield than that. Actually, I should say,
Sky Sports Racing.
is that what it is now? Sky
Yeah.
Sports Racing. Sorry.
Yeah, you're about 5 years out of date there, Simon.
Well, something I was told I didn't realise. I shouldn't have even introduced you as Bob because I'm told you don't like Bob.
I've got used to it actually, because originally my first ever job, which was with Mecca Bookmakers, maybe that'll come into your conversation eventually. The chap who employed me there, a chap called Bill Hogwood, he was a great man. But he said, "Are you a Bob or a Robert?" And I said, "Well," sort of, sounding rather like the king. I said, "Well, Robert actually." And he said, "Okay, Bob." So that was the end of that one. But I've got used to it, and it's fine. And even my children and my wife call me that, so I've got used to it. And the dog.
So, if I've got my sums right, 41st year as a broadcaster.
Yeah, I had my race last year at Sedgefield. I mean, I announced it myself. I was a sort of a glutton for punishment because on Sky Sports Racing at the end of 2021, we were asked what we were looking forward to in the following year. And rather than saying, "I'm looking forward to the Gold Cup" or something boring like that, I thought, "I'm looking forward to 40 years in broadcasting." And so they made a bit of a fuss of it on the Get In programme on Friday night. And I then got awarded at Sedgefield a race with the Robert Cooper 40 years in racing, which was won by, it was a 4-runner race, won by a horse of Jed O'Keefe's called, I can't remember what it's called now, something Fontana. It only won the other day. But anyway, it was fun. It was very nice.
So what's the secret of staying such a trip?
I think totally not being aware, but you're staying the trip, quite honestly. I mean, it's been a trip of several segments, because I haven't done the same. I've worked in racing, but not actually doing the same job. Well, I have been doing the same job in a way, but I think just sort of just keeping going. It's quite a nice way to survive, really. And survive is the word.
2005 Broadcaster of the Year, HWPA Awards.
Was it that long ago? 2005. Well, I mean, you can only need to win these things once, don't you? That was a great moment, and that was completely unwarranted, really. But very nicely received, and I've got the decanter next door as a memento.
Now, one of your colleagues and also a previous winner of Broadcasting, Luke Harvey, I was speaking to him the other day.
Well, yeah, but I won it well before he did. Yeah, but good for Luke.
But I said after the sad demise of Barney Curley and Big Mac, I said that Luke was the last man standing from that still popular and famous clip. But no, he said if you look again, you'll see Bob Cooper stood in the background thoroughly enjoying himself.
Because who was because Barney Curley and McCririck, they're both chatting to each other upstairs now. Funny, that was at Folkestone, and funnily enough, I was there, not reporting or anything, and not just for a jolly, although I like Folkestone. I was there we were doing sort of a series on a day in the life of a racecourse, and I'd done a bit of research on Folkestone, and I knew Barney Curley was going to be there because I'd seen the declared runners, and I thought, well, I'll ask him about something, because I used to get on quite well with him. If you handle him right, he was quite funny. He could be a bit abrasive sometimes, but he was a good man. And I heard this racket by the weighing room, and I was just sidling along, wanting to try and get hold of him. I knew that my chance had gone because he was absolutely, there was smoke coming out of his ears. That was amusing.
And there's quite a few favourite clips, actually. That's a Man, Tommo, is another favourite one, isn't it?
It's a man, actually, Tommo. That only emerged, 2 or 3 years ago? Was it? Yeah, no, 2019 or something, I think it was. And I was working upstairs, and someone sent me a text and with a sort of a little video attached. And I thought, where did they dig that up from? Because I remember it actually happening. That was a long time ago. I didn't know when the actual thing took place. But that was amazing. It got an Alan Partridge nomination, and it was actually on the Graham Norton show with Steve Coogan, Alan Partridge actually as a guest there. I mean, that's fame, isn't it?
Well, there was another bit of fame, which is probably was a little bit more controversial, where you were interviewing Ryan Moore. It wasn't exactly being all that talkative. And Leona Mayer did a tweet on your defence about him being a bit rude, and that was a bit. But it didn't seem to upset you at all.
No, I'm not. I don't think it's really worth tweeting about. But everyone can. It's up to anyone to do whatever they want. No, I mean, with Ryan Moore, the place not to get him is some. I think maybe it was somewhere like not Wolverhampton, but somewhere sort of low key. And quite honestly, he just, you can read his mind. I don't want to talk about that. I think if you've got something, sensible to ask him, he will probably do it. And I get on really well with him, actually. I mean, I say hello to him, but he's just, he's not a great interviewee, quite honestly, but he's a very good jockey.
Has your job become easier in recent years? Because you do, part of your job is to collar jockeys as they're coming back just after a race. I mean, are they more, sort of keen to talk these days?
I think on one hand, I think yes, they definitely are. And I think with, racing television, with racing TV and at the races and Sky Sports Racing and ITV and everything like that, there's so much televised and they do so many interviews now. But they probably have got used to it. And I think with the younger generation coming through, I mean, someone like Billy Loughnane, the young sensation, he's fantastic to talk to. He's just very, very natural. And I think there's more of that. I think as time goes on, I think there'll be more, more camera friendly. I mean, can you imagine in the old days talking to Lester Piggott or someone like that? Pat Eddery was once at Leicester, and I thought, because he used to be quite tricky when he was a jockey. He was really nice when he was a trainer. I used to chat to him a lot. But I remember writing a note and to be handed to him in the weighing room at Leicester, saying, could you come out and have a chat about this? And I sort of, was really slimy and asked him nice questions. And apparently he just sort of looked at it and just threw it in the bin, wouldn't do it. But he was fine.
Well, Bob, so sometimes we talked about jockeys there. Sometimes you actually employ them. Well, as part of the Old Stoics Racing Club.
The Old Stoics Racing. Well, yeah, we obviously got to have a jockey, because otherwise our horses can't run. But it's something I never thought I'd ever get involved in, racehorse ownership, because it's a route to the poorhouse, really, isn't it? Unless you're lucky. But it's fun having a winner at any sort of level, and we've done pretty well, actually. It's run by a chap called Henry Kimball. And we all went to the same school, posh school, as you were saying beforehand. Stowe School it was, for boys and girls nowadays. But Richard Branson was there. Several racing personalities. I probably miss out a few. Roger Charlton, Michael Bell, James Fanshawe, many of them. And our trainers we've used at the moment, Alex Hales and Johnny Portman. So Ed Bethel does very well.
So what is your background?
What do you mean, Mike?
Well, you went to that school. So what were your parents? What was their business?
My parents. Well, my mother was, her business was producing children, I suppose. But my father worked in. He worked for. He was sort of he worked for an oil company, for Castrol Oil. Just as sort of a rep, really. I mean, in those days, talk about wasting. The money, it's not cheap going to these schools, and even in those when I was there, it was probably quite expensive relatively, and I just wasted my parents' money. But anyway, education's a matter of opinion. People always get criticised for going to posh schools, but it's not you who decides to go or not. It's your parents who send you there. My father went to the same school almost when it was founded. He was there with David Niven, one of the founder members, I think, because it started 100 years ago this year. And, I went, like in the old days, one used to sort of father followed son. And I think probably our academic levels were probably pretty similar. In other words, not very good.
Did your love of racing come from the being at the school?
No, not really. No, I loved racing before. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, because my father was always very keen. He was born and brought up in Ireland, and he used to go, and he was at university in Dublin, and he used to go, tales of going to the Curragh and Leopardstown and things like that. And we used to watch racing on the telly, go to points. That was about that got me going on betting. It was a very good way of learning, you know, how to bet, which is a very important quality to have in life, I think. And you know, it started with not far beyond the cradle.
Okay, so you were interested in betting as well as racing. You weren't a school bookie.
Yeah, I think my dad was the bookie. No, I think racing without betting would be. I would find it quite dull, actually. That's why all this hoo-ha at the moment about affordability is utterly, you know, it's absolutely baffling, isn't it? Anyway, that's another matter.
It is. Hopefully, yeah. So I was told, little bird told me that you worked. Did you work in the city? Was that your first job from leaving school?
My first job leaving school, I had a Christmas job working at Harrods in the adult games department, which sounds a bit raunchy, but in fact it was selling packs of cards and chess sets and things like that. But that was really good fun. My first real job, I worked, my next brother up, there are 5 of us, he was a stockbroker. And he got me an interview with a firm of jobbers called Ackroyd and Smithers, who don't exist anymore. And they were sort of the jobbers were the bookmakers, and the brokers were the punters, sort of thing. That's how it worked in those days. And I got a job as a trainee jobber. And the chap who interviewed me died very recently, actually, Tim Nixon, who's had some very good horses with Henry Daly. And I got the job he had a colour TV set on in his office, and the colour was all skew-whiff, and I altered it, and I got the job by being very good at horizontal hold.
Now, I'm told that there was quite a famous bookmaker in the city, otherwise known as Trainer Jack Ramsden.
Well, he wouldn't like to be known. He wouldn't like to be known as a bookmaker, but he would take. There was a lot of betting. That's one of the things about the stock exchange I really liked, because there was a bookies across the road, Heathorns. You could go along there in your lunch hour and have a bet. So betting was rife everywhere. You know, spread betting, test match runs.
Well, it is betting, really, isn't it, the stock market?
Absolutely. There's no affordability checks on that, is there? Anyway, it's another matter again. But yeah, and there used to be, you know, Premier League points of your football team, everything. And the Lincoln was coming up, first leg of the spring double, and there was a horse I fancied. It was called Doudstown Charlie. I remember it really well. And there were loads of tips there, said, you know, back it each way, and I think it was about 16, 20 to 1. And I was going to back it, and someone said to me, oh, I know someone who'll lay you a bet if you wanted to back it. Jack will lay it, Jack Ramsden. And he was quite a feared figure in the very sort of sharp, snappy dresser, very astute, as we know him to be, and he'll lay you a bet. So I was standing in my pitch in the stock exchange, and suddenly its shadow emerged, and it was Jack Ramsden, and I'd never met him before. He said, I hear you want to have a bet, and I said, yes, please, like a sort of little schoolboy. And he, Doudstown Charlie said, I'll give you 20 to 1, and I said, I'll have, I think it was £2.50 each way, I said. He just sort of looked me up and down, turned on his heels, didn't say anything, and just walked away. I felt, you know, that small. I was so humiliated. I thought it was quite a big bet for me in those days, but, you know, not for Jack.
And what happened to Doudstown Charlie?
Still running.
Bigger fool Jack then?
Yeah, I know. Little acorns and all that stuff.